With Survivor 43 just around the corner, I decided to make this entire video going through an in-depth analysis of each contestant and what we should be expecting of them on the show. Let's go. First is Cassie Clark, a 26-year-old fashion designer from Austin, Texas. Initially casted for Survivor 41, but cut due to COVID, she's first on the 43 cast we'll be discussing. She appears to be a charismatic young woman, and as you might expect, loves art, creativity, and nature. Much like new school Survivor players, Cassie talks about not wanting to hold back, as she's willing to be as manipulative as possible, even referring to her name, which means clever in Irish, as well as her spirit animal being a fox. When met with obstacles in the game, she also believes she can use logic and her out-of-the-box thinking to overcome them. She believes she'll play most like Kim Spradlin, Survivor 1 World winner, a bold call, but likens Kim's triple threat demeanour to her own, as she talks about being skilled in all three facets of the game, which is physical, social, and strategic. This will allow her to hopefully evade the target that comes with being too noticeably good in one field, and even talks about her solid physicality, which will be good enough to prevent her being targeted early on, while never making her a target at the merge. Almost entirely juxtaposing her is Cody Asenmacher, Mr. Radical himself, aka that butt cheek guy. He's 35 in elevator sales, grew up in Preston, Iowa, however he now resides in Honolulu. He's one of two contestants therefore from Hawaii. But Cody's certainly an interesting bloke, and seems to be getting a dummy edit just from the pre-game interviews alone. Nonetheless, Cody lives and breathes the Hawaii lifestyle, even referring to the small communities he belongs to, and talks about how that has instilled him to be a man of his word. His catchphrase is "live to get radical," and the man is certainly hyper, even adding his strategy is like his hair, wherein there's relationship building in the front, but at least strategizing in the back. This is also seen where he refers to Malcolm Freeberg as the player he wants to play most like, with him hoping to model Malcolm's physical game as well as laid-back personality. In spite of being in his mid-30s, he's competitive, hoping to win many challenges for his tribe, and his youthful spirit could allow him to make really strong bonds with the younger contestants on the season. Next up is Dwight Murr, a 22-year-old graduate student living in Collarville. Dwight for me has a lot of superfan energy, as someone who just wants to give it his all, push 100% and be remembered as a legend. With his journalism career and confidence, it seems Dwight could have a lethal social game. I mean, this guy has interviewed several political figures all before he entered college. He even references he wants to replicate Wendell's social game on Ghost Island, caused him to be one of the biggest overdogs. Dwight as well is incredibly accomplished himself, and talks in interviews about how his parents used him as an example to inspire their kids in Memphis and show what black people can do academically. Ellie Scott is up next, a 31-year-old clinical psychologist who specialises in working with veterans that have PTSD, and she currently resides in Salt Lake City. Obviously, she believes her work as a psychologist will help her strategically and socially within the game of Survivor. After all, she admits in her profession, she has to think on her feet at all time. Her plan to outwit her opponents is surgical. Build trust with people, get information, and disarm them. But Ellie could also be underestimated physically, as in spite of her profession having no physical attributes towards it, she also enjoys rock climbing as well as skiing, with the former sure to assist her in the wild. On the topic of Ellie's aces up her sleeves, she admits to also loving art, and whenever she has time she tries crafting things. This point is also made more interesting, as she also states she sees herself playing similarly to Kim Spradlin, and if you remember, these last 2 points in being artsy and being alike to Kim Spradlin were also brought up by Cassidy. With similar thoughts on gameplay styles and hobbies, they could be the closest alliance this season, or be each other's worst enemy. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. But Ellie doesn't just put her eggs in one basket, as although she believes she has a natural ability to lead a group to the end like Kim, Ellie also believes, if in danger of getting the boot, she can play scrappy like Kelly Wentworth. She finally compares herself to Cerie Fields in being more than meets the eye, but importantly having the demeanour of someone nurturing and friendly the other contestants can trust. Up next is Gio Bustamante, who insanely had to quit his job just to be on the show, showing an immense amount of dedication to Survivor. He's 36 and is, or I guess now, was a project manager and the second contestant also from Hawaii, although he was originally born in Peru, and his multicultural background could very well assist him in bonding with many different people. He believes he can play a game somewhere between Cochran and Rob, except not with Rob's challenge skill. Similar to Jesse, Gio Gio grew up in the hood and was even homeless for a period of time before graduating with an associate's degree and a 4.0 GPA. Gio knows what it's like to have nothing to lose and has fought tooth and nail for every accomplishment he's made in the real world. He therefore believes he can transfer that spirit into the game and use it to never give up and win the title. The last thing he wants to do is end up at home and have regrets for how he played. 37-year-old born and bred Philadelphia man James Jones saw Earl Cole win Survivor Fiji in 2007 and was hooked ever since. James has a plan in his mind to form alliances, specifically with people that he deems as opposite. He'll open up his heart, he'll do whatever, and this strategy has a lot of variants, either being one that blows up in his face or similar to Omar and Jonathan last season, a plan that gets him very far. He's an event planner in the real world, but on Survivor plans to utilise Sandra's anybody but me strategy as long as he has solid numbers. James also talks about how he thrives in chaos. As an event planner, issues can happen any second, and he hopes his cool head as well as people skills can keep the attention off him if anything blows up on the island. And although James is prepared for the chaos, he also seems to have an innate ability to stick to plans, as at just the age of 12, competing against adults for $1,200 in the United States Open, he won. In these tournaments, he talks about how he was the only person that looked different, and in spite of being a quote fish out of water, he hopes that he can use that experience in Survivor to overcome people entirely different to him. Next is Janine, a 24-year-old UX designer from San Francisco. She believes one of her biggest advantages will come from her hero, her father, who came to the United States with $50 and not knowing anybody, but through hard grit and determination found success. Janine therefore believes this grit is in her bloodline, and she hopes to bring that fight to Survivor. Janine is an interesting case as someone that doesn't want to play a flashy game, but recognises the importance of timing and moves. She claims she knows how to read social dynamics easily, and plans to sit between different groups that trust her and align with a side at the stage of the game that suits her best. Janine goes on to believe she can play a game alike to Kim Spradlin, and cites her control in the game as well as the ability she had to make everyone trust her. As summarised by Janine, Kim, to her, is feminism at its finest. But Janine doesn't stop there, as she also believes her athleticism and outdoor experience will be a good backup option, and relates this to Andrea, who, on her initial season, pulled her weight and was outdoorsy. After that on this list is Jesse Lopez, a 30-year-old individual from North Carolina. Jesse had a pretty big portion of the premiere dedicated to him, where he talks about being in a gang and changing his life around to achieve a PhD in political science. Something I also like about his story is that this course got him into Survivor as a basis for voting behaviours. As a result, Jesse has made it apparent he dislikes people who complain about things that can't change and quitters. Jesse displays a great adaptability and people skills as he can bond with those rough and tough while also dealing with Harvard-level researchers in his daily life. This also creates a unique dynamic of Jesse, both being book and street smart in life, with Jesse even believing these skills have immense crossover to the game of Survivor. 29-year-old Justine Brennan, who works in cybersecurity sales in California, wants to prove that when it comes to her, you can't judge a book by its cover. She wants people to underestimate her and think she's incapable. That's part of her strategy coming onto the show. She wants her tribe to think she'll be a proper, quote, girly girl, so she can blow them away. In reality, Justine's parents were immigrants from the Philippines, instilling a hard work discipline within her. She rode dirt bikes with her father, and now works in a male-dominated field. One of the big three slogans of Survivor is outwit, and Justine believes she'll ace this category due to her psychology degree, good social skills, and she states she's far more emotionally intelligent than book smart. Something interesting to note is that at certain points of her interview, Justine seems to want to play in a lawful way, at least to some degree, and refers to her favourite players being Joe and Kelly due to their less manipulative games comparable to a Tony or Sandra, while having a degree of morals as help contestants in their games, and can set her aside for the better against her more aggressive competitors. If she sticks too closely to this ideology, it could bite her. Regardless, there's one thing Justine wants you to know, and that is that you shouldn't judge her by her size. If she wants something, she'll be as stubborn as possible until she gets it, and won't back down. 28-year-old Carla Cruz Godoy is already regarded by some of the fan base to be their favourite coming into the season, where after stating she has morals, she stops to only realise, no, she'll do literally anything for the title of sole survivor. Upon further digging, the educational project manager from Delaware has some strong tactics planned. She's not afraid to lie or be nosy, and clarifies her social game will involve her wanting to know everything about someone while only telling them certain things about her. But when the going gets tough, Carla can always resort to being a scrappy underdog, even referencing her experience of it in the real world, where she lived in a low-income household where sometimes she had to steal to get by. Carla references Saray as a survivor contestant most alike to her, and she notes her well-rounded social and strategic game. Much like the Survivor Queen, she feels she knows when to stir the pot, while also having the social credentials to get her to the end. But on top of that, unlike Saray, Carla recognises she's better physically, and also aims to make that an advantage when she sees fit. Lindsay Carmine is a 14-year-old pediatric nurse from Downingtown, Pennsylvania. Despite being one of the oldest contestants on the cast, Lindsay hopes to use that and her perceived southern hospitality to charm contestants and force them to underestimate her. Much like James, Lindsay claims she thrives in chaos due to her being a caregiver and isn't afraid to take risks. She's been wanting to be on Survivor for 2 decades now, and identifies her many successes in life, due to her never straying away from her goals, will help her on the island. And speaking of on the island, Lindsay has a lot of hobbies that will make her an effective tribe mate, such as her background in travelling, homestead projects, plus numerous outdoor activities. Her game hopes to be the embodiment of 3 previous winners, as she believes to have the mental and physical strength of Natalie Anderson, the strategic credentials of Sarah Lacina, and social skills of Michelle Fitzgerald. A high bar for Lindsay to set herself, and we will have to wait to see if she can live up to her own estimations once Survivor Season 43 begins. Mike Gambler, aka Gambler, is the next contestant we'll be talking about, and the oldest at 52. Mike's already had content in the pre-game trailer, identifying his line of work in being a heart valve specialist, and how he's calm in the operating room. Much like at work, if there's ever chaos on the island, Mike claims to have a cool head. In spite of being the oldest of the contestants, Mike acknowledges his severe-looking exterior and aims to have fun. He may also have a strong provider role on the island, as his hobbies include fishing as well as hunting. Mike wants to play like Sandra Diaz-Twine and hopes to have phenomenal strategies and gameplay like the former 2-time winner. But perhaps the best part of Mike's interview, why do you believe you can be sole survivor, with prior contestants delivering paragraphs, but nope, Mike just responds, yes. 28-year-old Philadelphia teacher Mariah Young feels it's her duty to kick people with colour and punch people with joy. As expected, Mariah is high energy, she loves travelling, creating content, and claims to be colourful as well as energetic. And it seems like Mariah is using her demeanour to her advantage, claiming that she's lovable and not an immediate threat. She's also looking to be a very loyal Survivor player. Her favourite player is James, and quotes his "don't bite the apple" line, and then goes on to further explain the importance of sticking true to an alliance. She's been watching since the beginning, so hopefully that, along with her mindset, will let her get to the end. Then we move on to 43-year-old pharmacist Neca, residing in Texas, and is an interesting case. Neca straight out of the gate identifies her inability to lie and doesn't do it in her real life, and never raised her children that way. So while Neca probably won't win the title for biggest Survivor villain, she hopes to outplay the opposition through her immense life experience, as she is the oldest woman on the cast. She immigrated from Nigeria and talks about her incredible determination combined with resilience, which could allow her to surprise those that underestimate her on the island. And it gets better, as Neca claims to almost always have a smile on her face, and she hopes that plus her social skills to influence others' decisions, making them think they were making their own decisions when in reality it was Neca from the shadows. As a result, Neca wants to play like Saray, seeming to play casual while playing hard in reality. Then, with probably the most people knowing her coming into the season, is 25-year-old US Paralympian Noelle Lambert, and living in Manchester, New Hampshire. As you can see, Noelle is an amputee, and the third to play on Survivor behind Season 9's Chad Critterin and Season 21's Kelly Bruno. Obviously, Noelle has been through hardship in her life and lost a leg at the age of 19 in a moped accident. For the full story, check out Vogue. Its article, like the others, are linked in the description, and it's a great read. But Noelle aims to use her fitness profession to her advantage by surrounding herself with physical threats, then cutting them when she sees fit. As an amputee, she's used to people feeling sorry for her, but plans to abuse that on the island, as if people underestimate her, she talks about abusing it for her benefit. She even likens herself to Kelly Wentworth, someone in Cambodia that was underestimated by her tribe mates, but through idols and blindsides, surprised them by making a deep run. Noelle describes her core plan of being social. She needs to form many relationships early on, and believes she can and will do whatever to get to the end. By day, he works as a college administration director, and by night, well, he's Owen. Owen Knight is a 30-year-old self-professed cross between long-haired bro and a brainy nerd who lives in New Orleans. Owen believes his social skills will be his key to success, describing himself as a charismatic, passionate, but most importantly of all, is a great public speaker. But Owen is more than meets the eye and wants to avoid the assumed Asian man stereotype of just having IQ, as his history in playing football at high school, as well as his hobbies in backpacking, hiking, and coaching fitness classes, should make him reliable in the physical game also. He wants to be an underrated triple threat, much like Adam Klein, who he states, quote, kept his threat level low, had good relationships with everyone, and was his authentic superfan. On the topic of superfan, if you haven't guessed already, Owen shares loud and proud he's a superfan of the show. He's watched every season, even the international ones, and has studied the game to specifically know what works and what doesn't. Ryan Medrano is a 25-year-old warehouse associate in El Paso, Texas. Ryan is determined to leave everything out there on the island, as it seems to be the ultimate test for him. Ryan has had to endure a lot, as he was born 3 months early with cerebral palsy, with doctors telling him he couldn't walk, but after 4 years of therapy, he defied the odds and now is a personal trainer. Although it has made his thinking slow, Ryan believes his innate ability of learning people and their facial expressions allow him to read them like a book. Ryan believes he can talk the talk with a silver tongue, but if necessary can pull out strong challenge showings that require strength or puzzle solving ability. He relates most to Rupert, hoping to model his provider role in the Pearl Islands, and seems to want to keep his tribe strong for challenges. Last but certainly not least is the youngest person on the cast, 19-year-old Sammy Layadi, who got content in the pre-season trailer talking about wanting to be the youngest Survivor winner ever. But he works as a pet cremator in Las Vegas. He identifies himself as good looking with great genetics, but also has a more emotional side to him that constantly is looking to better himself. Sammy constantly wants to know what's going on around him, claiming he's socially experienced enough to be aware if the game has flipped against him. And he's confident that, much like in the real world, his competitors will fall in love with him as he wears his heart on his sleeve. But Sammy also has a lot of heart and has shown dedication in the real world by getting his Eagle Scout by struggling mightily to gather merit badges. He hopes to transfer that grit into his game by playing a game similar to Kelly Wentworth, as she kept fighting until her torch was snuffed. Sammy also talks about Kelly Wentworth being perceived as oblivious in her season, and Sam hopes he can be underestimated by his other cast members too, so he can capitalise. And with that, we move on to the cast divisions. Firstly is the Coca tribe, that will be wearing blue and consist of Gio, Jay, Ryan, Cassidy, Carla and Lindsay. The next tribe will wear yellow and are called the Baka tribe, with Ellie, Janine, Mariah, Mike, Owen and finally Sammy. And then the Vesey tribe, wearing red, which contains Cody, Dwight, Jesse, Justine, Neca and Noelle. Personally, I feel like this red tribe is going to have the most interesting dynamics, as it seems to have some of the biggest characters from the pre-season, but let me know in the comments what tribe you think the winner will come from. But thanks for watching. This information was gathered from a number of sites, so check them out if you're interested. Hit that subscribe button as we begin the climb to 1,000 subscribers. A video will just have popped up on your left, showing me objectively ranking 30 Survivor legends. A video you will enjoy if you want to see how every 3-time player in Survivor's history has got on. But nonetheless, have a great day, and peace!